Hear from you ladies on what God has been doing in your life and get to know some of our amazing women here and hear their stories. And so tonight we're going to hear from someone. She's kind of like my hero. She has 5 kids, so just that alone is like, wow, you're alive, you kind of repel and you have 5 kids, like amazing work. But she has a powerful testimony about what the Lord has done in her life. And so would you give a warm welcome to Debbie Canada as she comes up right now to share with us.
Thank you, Kathy. It's very great to see you. Well, as Kat said, yes, I am mother to 5 children, 4 girls and 1 boy, and they range in age from 1 to 9.5. And it has been quite an adventure, quite a journey for me. But tonight, I'd like to share a different journey with you. My journey as a daughter and how I discovered the Father heart of God. And I'm a writer by nature, and God put this message on my heart, verbatim, which is not surprising to me because I'm a writer. And so that's how he gave it to me, and so I'm going to share it to you that way. I come from a family of 7. I'm one of 5 children. I have 2 older half-brothers from my mom's first marriage and 2 younger full sisters. And my father was a licensed marriage, family, and child counselor. And he worked in a variety of settings ranging from private homes to schools to clinics. He was a brilliant man and a highly qualified therapist, but he often charged little or nothing for his services. And that decision had a direct and significant impact on our family. We always had food, shelter, clothing, and food, transportation, but we lived in a perpetual state of lack. And rather than solving that problem by charging his clients the full fee that he was worthy of, he sometimes would complain about how our needs were driving him to the poorhouse. Although his background was in psychology, he believed that his primary mission was to deliver people from spiritual bondage. And the way he accomplished this was through intense spiritual warfare, which basically involved a lot of prayer and fasting in order to gain discernment and revelation of the strongholds and generational curses that were operating in the lives of his clients. Because he saw this as his ultimate calling and life purpose, he put no limitations to his work. And the danger of not establishing boundaries with something that you enjoy immensely, even if it is your calling or your vocation, is that it will eventually consume you. It will turn your heart and your focus and your energy away from the relationships that God has entrusted to you and made you a steward of. And that is what happened in my father's case. His schedule eventually exceeded 100 hours a week. And after putting in a 15-hour day at the office, he would continue counseling his clients over the phone when he got home. And sometimes as a teenager, when I was up late, I would overhear him fervently interceding for his clients. But I never overheard him interceding for me. And the irony and tragedy of it all is that while my father was waging war against the kingdom of darkness, the kingdom of darkness was waging war against our home. We desperately needed his spiritual covering and protection over us. The devastating wounds that my mother had endured in her childhood and her first marriage, and the wounds that my brothers had sustained from their father, all collided to create an atmosphere of chaotic dysfunction and instability. We were left exposed. I was left exposed to experiences that filled my young heart with terror and shame. Ladies, I felt my father's absence in my deepest core. I yearned for his presence, his time, his involvement, his support. I longed for his attention, his affection, his delight, his approval, and I couldn't understand why a father would dedicate and devote all of his resources to strangers instead of his own flesh and blood. I couldn't figure out why I was unable to capture my father's attention and especially his heart. I finally decided that if I could just excel at everything I did, then I could prove myself worthy of him. But nothing I did, no, not the grades that I received, no teams that I joined, no titles or accolades that I earned, seemed to shift his focus in the least. The reality was that I had a father who was detached, unattuned, unavailable, inaccessible, and consumed with an addiction. And there was not a thing I had done to cause that, nor was there anything I could have done to change that. But I didn't know this truth growing up. I didn't know that the brokenness and defectiveness lay in him. I thought it lay in me. And that shift in responsibility was not accidental. It was entirely intentional, cunningly crafted by the enemy of my soul. His name is Satan, and ladies, he is the enemy of your soul as well. He targets each one of us. No one is off limits, not even children. The Bible tells us he has one mission: to steal, kill, and destroy. And the only way he does this is through lies. That's his only technique. But it's a very effective technique because of his strategic timing. He doesn't come to us when we're emotionally and spiritually thriving and say things like, "You're worthless, nobody loves you," because our current circumstances are telling us quite the opposite, and we wouldn't believe him. Instead, he waits until we are vulnerable, until someone significant in our life has wounded us with their words or actions. In my case, the enemy knew that I was brokenhearted over the loving presence and involvement of my dad in my life, and he seized that opportunity to lie to me about who I was. He told me that I was unable to capture my father's attention, my father's heart, because I was unlovable and unworthy of anyone's love. He told me that I was unable to capture my father's attention because I was invisible and unworthy of anyone's attention. He told me that my father didn't protect me because I wasn't worthy of protection. He told me that my father didn't joyfully and generously provide for me because I wasn't worthy of provision and blessing. And he told me that if my own father didn't want a relationship with me, nobody would, and that I was completely alone and always would be. Perhaps you're already connecting the dots and seeing how my experiences with an earthly father whose heart was disconnected from me translated into the belief that my heavenly Father's heart was disconnected from me as well. That God didn't love me or protect me or provide for me or even see me because he had already abandoned me. And it is so natural that I would think that because God designed the parent-child relationship to be a picture of his relationship with us. Only it's supposed to be a beautiful picture of a loving, affectionate, secure attachment. He intended for parents to be the first and primary reflectors of God's heart toward us. So my dad, unfortunately, was a very distorted God filter to me. Every painful experience I had had with him collectively created the tainted lenses through which I viewed God. Sadly, though, I went through my entire childhood and adolescence completely unaware that I was wearing any lenses or looking through any filter or believing any lies of the enemy. As I entered into adulthood, I experienced further devastation at the hands of others, and a deeper wounding from my father as well, all of which served to reinforce my gross misperception of God. I won't be able to share with you tonight about my husband and the healing agent that he has been in my life, hopefully on another occasion. But let me fast forward 3 years into my marriage and share with you the real turning point in my journey of discovering the place I hold in God's heart. I can't tell you the whole story. It's another wonderful story, but my first child, my daughter Shayla, was her conception and birth was actually prophesied over a church we attended for the first time. It's an amazing story. And so this man, the pastor, said it to us and didn't even know us, and sure enough, like almost down to the day, it happened as he said. And everybody was wanting this to be a girl. The whole church had heard about it. It was a small church, and everybody was wanting a girl. My husband was wanting a girl, and I eventually wanted a girl, but I wanted my first child to be a boy for some reason. And I was 2 weeks away from the ultrasound that would reveal the gender of my daughter. And I remember sitting in church, and there was a guest speaker from an organization who helped rescue young girls from sex trafficking, human trafficking. And I was having such an intense reaction to what she was saying. And I heard the Lord speak to me, and he said, "You're having this intense reaction because you're carrying a girl, and you're imagining what that would be like if your own daughter were caught in this horrible trafficking." And I thought, of course, I don't get what I want. It's what everybody's saying. She's going to be daddy's little girl. Of course, my husband gets what he wants. The church gets what they want. And God said to me, "She will be for your healing." And I didn't understand it at the time, but I remember I kept it in my heart always. And it was very powerful, although I didn't understand it. And so, as a girl, everything was fine. She was born, and I remember when she was still in that newborn stage, I was holding her one time, and she was peaceful, which was a rarity because she was a colicky baby. All of my children were colicky babies. And so she was having a peaceful moment. I think she was probably asleep on my chest. And I just had, it wasn't the first time, but I had such tenderness and affection and warmth that just well up within me. And love, just this desire to nurture her and protect her and give her everything she needed, spiritually, emotionally, materialistically, just everything. And it was so powerful, it just overwhelmed me. And right then, I heard God speak, not out loud, but to my spirit. And he said, "Everything that you're experiencing right now, everything that you have in your heart for Shayla, everything that I just named," he said, "you are getting a glimpse of what I have in my heart for you." And it was like, at that moment, he removed those tainted lenses from my eyes. And I saw his heart for the very first time. And he obviously didn't reveal everything to me in that moment. He couldn't have. It's been a progressive revelation, and one that I believe will never end, not on this side of eternity. But I want to share with you the highlights of what I have discovered about his father heart. He showed me that I am not invisible to him. He sees me. As a matter of fact, Job 36:7 says, he never takes his eyes off of us. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. When someone doesn't take their eyes off of you, it means you have their undivided attention. He showed me that he is fiercely protective of me. Psalm 105:15 says, "Don't touch my anointed ones." Psalm 91:4 says, "He will cover us with his feathers, and under his wings we will find refuge. His faithfulness will be our shield and rampart." 2 Thessalonians 3:3 says, "He will strengthen us and protect us from the evil one." And he showed me that he delights in providing for my needs and in lavishing me with abundant blessings. He showed me that I was never alone, that he was always with me and always will be, Deuteronomy 31:6 and Hebrews 13:5 both say that God will never leave us or forsake us. The word leave in the original text refers to physical abandonment, and the word forsake refers to emotional abandonment or turning one's heart away from someone. So God addressed it from all angles. And my question to you tonight is, what kind of lenses did your earthly father create for you? With the words he spoke to you and the way he treated you, how did your experience with him affect the way you perceive and experience your Heavenly Father? What lies has the enemy told you about who you are to God and who he is to you? Take those questions to the Lord, and he will answer you, and he will reveal his Father heart to you. Thank you.
That was whoa, really loud. That was incredibly powerful, Debbie. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm pretty sure all of us can relate in some way because, you know, especially for girls, how we've been raised and how our earthly father has raised us. I mean, man, that has such a significant impact on how we view God. I know for me, it's something that I've continually got to renew my mind on. So thank you for sharing such a powerful testimony of how God really does feel about us, that he loves us to no end, and that he's with us and he believes in us. And so tonight we're actually going to transition now into looking a little bit more